What is up, guys? Welcome back to the Night Train Precision YouTube channel. Today we're going to be doing another part of our concealed carry tactics video series. And this video is going to be appendix carry. If you missed our previous video, feel free to jump back and check it out. We go over just some of the basics of concealed carry when it comes to holster selection and pistol selection, but it's pretty brief. Today we're going to be diving a little bit more in depth into concealed carry and specifically appendix carry, the position that I use the most to carry my firearm concealed. So let's dive into that. So the first thing that we need to talk about, though, when it comes to concealed carry or appendix carry, since it has to deal with carrying a firearm in the appendix position along our belt line, is our belt. And this is, a highly important thing. If you're going to carry along your belt line and carry a firearm at that, you're going to need a belt that's able to do that. Gives you the capability to do that. You can't have a very flimsy belt because a very flimsy belt's not going to be able to support the load of your firearm. And it's going to be very inconsistent to draw from, very inconsistent holster placement. It's just not going to keep things in line and in check where they need to be. So I am holding a Groove Life belt here. This is just a standard Groove Life belt. Definitely not the best concealed carry belt in the world, but it works for me because I carry a SIG P365XL. It's not an extremely heavy gun. It's pretty small. This belt offers me just enough flexibility to where it's still comfortable, but offers me just enough rigidity to where my draw is consistent. Everything's pretty consistent, pretty ergonomic. Now, they do make more rigid belts out there, and if you're going to carry something heavier, like let's say a SIG P226 or some steel framed gun that's going to be a little bit heavier, you're probably not going to be able to use something like this because this Groove Life belt is not rigid enough. It's not stiff enough. So there are plenty of companies out there that make stiffer belt options, more tactical options, things like that. But that kind of leads us into the next point that I want to bring up, and that is definitely the route you're going to want to go. You're going to want a stiffer belt if you're going to carry something heavier, but you are probably going to give up a few things in order to do that. You're probably going to give up, one, a belt that, it's not going to look like a normal belt. So when other people see it, it's definitely going to stand out a little bit. That's the first thing. The other thing is you're probably going to give up some comfortability because it's stiff and rigid. It's going to be, stiff and rigid around your waistline, and it's not going to be as comfortable. So those are some things to consider when you are looking at belts, balancing, okay, how heavy is my gun? What are people using for this type of carry position, this and this and this, There are a bunch of things to weigh, and a lot of your concealed carry starts with the base of it. And when you're talking about around the waist, it's going to be your belt. So just remember your belt is a very important thing to pay attention to when building out your concealed carry loadout. So let's dive into some tips I have with appendix carry. All right, guys, I'm going to apologize again. I am your model for today, and I know it is not the prettiest thing in the world, so I do apologize for that, but this is YouTube and it is free, so you get what you get, right? So diving in here, we're going to be looking at belt placement. So you can see right now I have my belt here in what we would consider the normal position, right? Well, unfortunately, in appendix carry, if I was to keep my belt buckle here, the biggest problem that we're going to have, right, is that my gun is going to be running into this belt buckle. So the first thing to consider when concealed carrying is that you're going to need to move this belt over a little bit. And the best way to do that is to slide it over one notch here and run your belt off to the side. So basically my belt buckle is going to be centered along the edge of my hip here. And I will sometimes run it a little further back, maybe up in here, but it typically feels good just about right in line with my pocket here. So this gives us ample room in order to place the firearm down here for appendix carry. So let's get to it. All right, gang, since we have the holster in the pistol here now, we're going to get it mounted up here in our appendix carry position. This is your standard appendix carry holster with your AIWB claw here that's going to drive this pistol a little bit further into your body to maximize concealment. So let's go ahead and get it mounted up. So now that we've given ourselves plenty of real estate here, now that we've positioned our belt over here to, offset our belt buckle essentially, we're going to put the holster between the underwear and the pants, and then we're going to put the holster hooks around our belt. So should look something like this, right? We've got the holster hooks around the belt, and then, the holster is in the pants, but also not in your underwear. So should be pretty comfortable for the most part. Should look something like that. So the first thing that I want to state is, if we are going to move this holster over into, like, let's say, okay, the 2 o'clock to like 1:30 to 2 o'clock position, it is going to give us a little bit of a problem. And the first problem that it's going to present is it's going to start to print here on the outer edge because of the increased dead space of between the gun and your body. So it's going to push out here and print a little bit harder on the edge. So typically in appendix carry, you're going to want to carry in that 12 to 1 o'clock position if you're right-handed, or the 12 to 11 o'clock position if you are left-handed. So should be pretty well centered, just like this. And then the next tip that I have, if we were to throw the shirt over just like this with our belt, normally lined up, the gun is pretty well concealed, but it still does have a few issues with printing for the most part. And that's because my gut is driving this pistol out. So in order to mitigate that, we need to drive the gun further down into our groin area. So drive the gun further down in our groin area and line up with our natural belt line. And what that's going to do is actually offer us a little bit more natural concealment. As you can see, the gun is pretty well concealed. And it's also still going to give you enough room where you can draw, should be able to draw just fine. So you can see there's a little bit of flex in this belt, but for the most part, this setup works pretty well for me. So that's some of the tips and tricks that I wanted to share with with appendix carry that will help you kind of maximize comfortability and maximize concealment. Another thing to take note of is appendix carry is really comfortable when sitting down, because when you go to sit down somewhere, all you got to do is, when you pop a squat, push that back up into your stomach a little bit higher, and now that holster is not really going to impede with any portion of your lower body. And then when you stand up, you're just going to do a quick push down, push that back into your belt line, and you should be good to go. So those are some of the tips and tricks that I wanted to show you guys with appendix carry. Let's close out this video. So now that we talked about appendix carry, belt position, holster position, pistol position in general with appendix carry, let's talk about why we would appendix carry in the first place, right? So to better understand this, we kind of need to understand, for the most part, where this originated from. From my understanding, it originated in the GWOT, the Global War on Terror, with CIA and operators attached to the CIA that were carrying Glocks. And switching over to Glocks were thicker, shorter. You didn't have a beaver tail or a protruding hammer to worry about. So, there weren't some of those aspects of carrying that you had to consider. But what they did have to consider is a lot of their work was done, sitting down, standing up, getting in and out of vehicles, laying down, things like that. And the appendix carry allowed operators to reach their firearm in an extremely fast manner if they needed to, in almost any position, whether that's standing up or sitting down inside a vehicle. For example, let's just talk about, okay, if you were to carry a firearm in the small of your back here, and you were to sit down in a vehicle, you would not be able to access the firearm very quick, or probably at all. And that's a problem when you need to access a firearm quickly in an austere environment. And so that's how appendix carry became really popular. And today, in the concealed carry world, it's probably one of the most prevalent ways to carry a firearm, and for good reason, right? I mean, that versatility is extremely important when it comes to concealed carrying, especially like when it is your first, when it is your line of defense, right? So between its overall concealability and its versatility, it probably is the best, if not one of the best ways to conceal carry. So hopefully this video and some of the tips and tricks that I gave you help you new concealed carriers out there carry, more concealed, hopefully, and more efficiently and effectively. Now, I do understand that appendix carry is not going to be right for everybody. I mean, if you're a very hefty person, you're probably not going to be able to carry appendix carry very effectively. And my answer to that would probably be to, maybe work on some fitness and get a little bit more fit so that you could do that. But I do understand that, some people are not going to be able to carry that way. That's okay. You still should be training and concealed carrying and doing your part, right? And there are other options out there for you. You can, carry in the small of your back, on your side. You can have an ankle holster, a shoulder holster. I mean, the sky's the limit, right? But for the most part here, appendix carry, especially in my personal opinion, I think is just one of the best ways to carry effectively across the board. Whether it's, sitting down, standing up, wearing a sweatshirt, coat, yada, 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 the whole 9 yards. I mean, there are times though where it may not be the best option. We may cover that in a later video. But for all intents and purposes, I am a huge fan of appendix carry, and I hope some of the tips I gave you helped you guys out. So if you have any further questions, leave them down in the comments below. If you want to reach out to Night Train Precision for any of your firearm, ammunition, gunsmithing needs, training needs, feel free to reach out to us at nighttrainprecision@gmail.com. With that said, thank you guys for watching. I hope you gained some knowledge out of this video. If you have any questions or concerns, again, please leave them down in the comments below. I'll be happy to answer those. I really appreciate you guys tuning in. Thank you, and I will see you guys next time.